Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing my KRU Valorant roster rebuild. Today we're going to go through the whole roster of KRU. Let you guys know who I think they should drop, who I think they should pick up to replace those guys, and maybe a little bit about the guys that they should keep as well. So if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I put a ton of effort into this series, and I've done plenty of videos like this for other teams. So if you're interested in any other team, you can go check out my latest videos, and your team will probably be in there as long as they're not from China. I do have a few more of these left. After this one, we just have Loud in Americas, and then I think Carmine Core in EMEA, and I'm done with Pacific entirely as well. So if you're interested in any teams, again, they'll probably be in there. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So before we get into the roster, we do have to recap what this team did in 2025 to set us up to figure out what we want to do in 2026. So in the offseason, they replaced Heat and MTA with Adverso and Mazzino, which to me is kind of iffy. I think Adverso definitely was an upgrade in terms of like if you wanted an IGL scan initiator player. I think Mazzino is definitely an upgrade over MTA, but I think Heat Adverso was kind of a push. I would have personally wanted them to keep Heat. But heading into America's kickoff, they got fourth, did very well in that tournament, and they started stage one, going 4-1. Started the year very, very well, but as KRU does, they very much underperformed in the playoffs and got 5th, 6th, and really didn't do anything during that bracket. I think they got the 1 seed, so they literally didn't win a game in playoffs with that 5th, 6th. Then they replaced Adverso with Dante heading into stage 2, which Dante was one of the biggest prospects coming out of tier 2 LATAM. Over this past year, he just turned 18 during stage 2, so he came in and played for them. They went 2-3 though, which was a lot to do with a lot of role issues, weird stuff going on with the team. Like, it was just like a lot of people put on weird roles just to get Dante in the team instead of Adverso. So it wasn't great for them. They played a lot of double duelist. They were a fun team to watch when they were playing well, but that was very, very rare because they also got 7th, 8th in playoffs and broke their streak of repeatedly making it to champs every single year. So overall, a very disappointing year for KRU, who generally is a solid team in VCT, but they were not able to make any internationals last year, and that's going to be the goal for this team. So now onto what we have to work with, the contracts that we have on this team. We have 2 guys signed for 2026 and beyond, and that's Dante and Mazzino. So we can kind of cut those guys if we want to and keep them if we want to, but the other guys will actually have to re-sign to keep on the roster, which will be Kesnet, Melzer, and Shy. Now, moving on to what we're going to do with these players, we will be keeping the 2 guys on 2026 and beyond contracts in Mazzino and Dante, because I think they're both at least solid players. Dante didn't show too much during stage 2, but had some flashes of good play, and I think giving him an offseason with a more functional team, I think would help him out a lot. And then Mazzino, I think, is just a solid, like, okay flex player that can help you get to internationals at his peaks. At his fault, like when he's not playing well, it's not great, but I think generally regionally, Mazzino is a very good player. It's just internationals where he kind of falters a little bit, but if you can build a good enough team around him, I think it's perfectly fine. Then Shy, I have re-signed on the Sentinel role because I just think he's such a solidly good player for you all the time that you really don't have to worry about too much with him. And then we're going to let Kesnet and Melzer walk on this team just because mostly the roles don't fit for Kesnet. He's a very good player, and I think he could go to most places. I think he's rumored to go to Envy right now in real life, which I think would be a great spot for him outside of the fact that they're an English-speaking team mostly. So I think he'd be a great fit on that team, playing like the Kane Zera-ish flex role. But on this team, we want a little bit more flexibility, being able to play stuff that isn't just double duelist, maybe a little bit of Clove here and there. And then Melzer, I just don't think is quite good enough if he's not calling. And even then, his calling was not great in stage 2 overall. So we're going to let him walk as well and head into next year with Dante, Mazzino, and Shy. So now moving on to the roles we'll need for this roster heading into next year. We'll need a scan initiator player because Mazzino will be moving over to the flex role. We'll need a smokes player and an IGL on one of those 2 roles. So pretty simple here. We just need 2 players, one of them to be an IGL. So for available scan initiators, you have Sidzu Lord from, I forget what team he's from, but they played at Ascension, didn't do too great, but I thought he was very good when I watched him in tier 2. Nico Machine, who I watched play against Lev Academy and was very, very good in that game. Called a decent game, as well, because he is on our IGLs list as well as Sidzu Lord. And then Basic as well for scan initiators, played for Furia, did get cut. Kind of unfortunate for him, but I wasn't like super impressed with him in tier 2 watching him heading into stage 2. So I really don't think he would be on the team at this point anyway, but obviously you'd like him to get an opportunity to play in tier 1 after kind of getting screwed out of it last year. For controllers, you have PHC, LZ, potentially leaving 2G, even though they're getting relegated anyways, above, and Genom potentially getting cut from MIBR. I think all of those are pretty good options. And then for IGLs, we already talked about Nico and Sidzu Lord, but Rafa also leading. I also forget the Brazilian team, but they got like top 3 in Ascension. The team with DG's in on it as well. So overall, he's not a bad player, but wasn't that. I think he played tier 1 or has had multiple opportunities come up in tier 1, and bad players have gotten picked over him. So he's a little bit of a weird one as well. So for our first pickup here, we're going to start with Genom. And this is a player that I think was extremely good regionally for MIBR last year, but when he got to the international events, seemingly due to nerves, he was really, really struggling. Like, it didn't really feel like he wasn't good enough to compete at an international level. Like, he played very well regionally to the point where he was like one of the top like 3 smokes players, at least during stage 1 regionally. And then when he got to both international events, just wasn't quite the same. Was cut from MIBR in this world. I think that's a pretty reasonable one. I think if you were to cut somebody from MIBR, it would be Genom. Obviously, they did make a lot more changes in real life. Personally, I'm not going to be making a video on MIBR. It'll just be the one change of Genom out, and you'll see who they replace him with in that rebuild. But for like just for Genom here, I think this is a pretty solid pickup. He's going to improve their fragging on that smokes roll, give them maybe a better player, at least regionally, than Melzer was, and let like kind of use him to get to the international events. And maybe if down the line they're making the international events and he's not doing anything there, then you get somebody else in on this smokes roll to replace him. But overall, I think Genom's a very, very good player. I don't think he's a great player, but he's very good, and he can serve his purpose on this smokes roll for this team. So now onto the new IGL of this team, Nico Machine. I thought he was a great individual player on the scan initiator role while IGLing in tier 2. He was really, really good in all of those like clutch scenarios. Specifically, I watched him on the Sova. I thought he was especially good on that. And was also pretty good in 2024 in tier 2 as well. He made the Ascension lower finals with that team there. I think that was with Dante Deus, who is on KRU now, I believe. Yes, so reuniting with former teammates there. I don't think he was the IGL of that team, though, to be fair. That was Adverso. But he has been calling in tier 2, at least to my knowledge, for this season. I'm obviously not 100% sure about his calling, but has had good results in tier 2, as well as like his team looked fairly well put together in their game. Like, it didn't look like there was any like 2024 NRG type stuff in there where it was like stuff that made literally no sense. But yeah, he looked fairly solid on his role, both as an individual scan initiator player as well as an IGL. So our final roster here actually looks pretty good in my opinion. I think you have 5 very solid players with some high potential players in every role pretty much, I think. Obviously Dante Deus, very, very high potential player. Was awesome in Ascension 2024 and looked at least fairly good in tier 1 in his small stint in stage 2, but wasn't like amazing. It wasn't like comeback where like it wasn't great, but he showed some flashes. Like I think Dante showed maybe a couple flashes, but it was not to the same degree that comeback was, where like Dante was like rounds where he was showing flashes, comeback was showing maps where he was showing flashes. Then on flex, you have Mazzino, who I think has just for the past few years been a really solid flex player in Americas. Like, he can play smokes like any initiator really to like at least a decent level. And he can play some Senti here and there, like specifically the Deadlock he was really known for in 2024. And honestly, I think he could play a little bit of Duelist for this team if they really need him to. I think he's definitely good enough mechanically to play that role. He played it a little bit during like off-season tournaments between stage 1 and 2. I figured he would actually play the double duelist for this team, and somebody else would play scan initiator or something like that. Like there would be some weird stuff going on with the roles of that team. But I figured he would be on a little bit of double duelist heading into stage 2, but he was not. But I'm gonna let him play it here, honestly, and just see that. Obviously, I'm not like super big on the double duelist meta and stuff like that. Like I don't think it's gonna be quite as prominent maybe as some people think, but he'll be a big piece of this team. Very, very good player. And then Nico Machine and Shenum being added in on this team. I think both pretty good individual players. Nico Machine seems like a decent caller, so getting both players in here. And then Shy, one of the best Sentinel players in all of Americas, heading in on the Sentinel role. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what you guys think of this roster in the comments below, whether there's anything I missed, anything like any other players that I didn't really mention that you guys are very, very high on. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.